Okay, it's 7:01 and we are calling the meeting to order of Inland Wetlands Commission. We've we've lost a member. Ron Hunt, I guess, is planning to move out of the area, so he's no longer on the commission. And we have a new member, John Lapari. Is that Mr. Lapari right there? Hi. And just so the rest of you guys know, he took the test and passed it, and I'm so impressed. So,
excellent.
Good job.
thank you. Do you want to give us a minute about your background and why you'd like to be on our commission?
Sure. I'm a senior project manager for a commercial general contractor from the Hartford area. And I have done land development in Simsbury and Granby, and used to have a land development company and home building company in Simsbury. And I just felt that we've recently moved to East Granby about 3 years ago, and I just felt this was an opportunity for me to serve my community.
Well, thank you very much, and we welcome your experience. So, can I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes from August 6th?
Move.
Second.
And all in favor? I'm raising my hand.
Wasn't in attendance.
Okay, so are we good on that?
We are. James is.
Okay. Item 4, communications, we have nothing new. Item 5, old business. Did you guys get the two different maps? The map that came from Tyche, which shows a few open space areas, and then I asked also Michelle to send out to you the Crap Rock Ridge Land Conservancy, because that labels the open spaces.
We have printed copies, Jennifer.
Okay. And I didn't think tonight, because we're just starting to look at it, but I was hoping if we have a December meeting, that with Rob in there kind of facilitating, that we could take a look and maybe come up with our recommendations for areas we think should be prioritized if the town were to consider providing more money for possibly buying open space within the town. So basically the blue, the kind of darker blue, and as you look down on the lower right in the middle there, that's the gun club that's right next to the land trust property, which is the green. So that isn't really available. There's a little blue square up to the right, and the most undeveloped space is near the top of the town, those blue areas that are right next to East Granby Farms. But some of you from where you live may know of some other good spaces that are in your area that are maybe a little smaller, but that still might be beneficial.
Available for sale?
Not necessarily, but it's just, if we wanted to prioritize it, we could approach the owners.
Oh, okay.
The blue, there's a key in the lower right-hand corner, and the blue is private. And again, Robin may know other ways you get open space, that I'm not aware of. The big green area in the middle of the bottom, that's Coles Park. And then the two green chunks in the upper left. Wait, I just pressed the button and I lost. So, okay, I'm back. The upper left-hand corner, that's the Newgate Wildlife Sanctuary, and then the 4 green squares, that's Trap Rock Open Space. That's all along the bike trail. So I don't know if there's any other opportunities up there to, Kurt McNaughton does quite a bit of development up there. So I'm not sure if there are any other opportunities.
I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, but one of the things that's challenging about identifying parcels for potential open space acquisition is as soon as you do, they become more expensive, because now the market for an open space parcel has changed, and it can be a little bit polarizing or political. I don't know what term you want to use when you start identifying private properties by name or by address. But you can certainly talk about parcels that have strategic benefits from a greenway corridor, creating a corridor or providing specific habitat or something along those lines, whether you're talking passive open space, active open space. And as I said, I think last time I mentioned that we've worked with some towns on coming up with a set of criteria for determining whether or not a piece of open space should be acquired. Just because you're being offered the open space doesn't mean you should take it. And for example, the smaller pieces, the way you get to that is through subdivision, right? You require open space to be set aside as part of a subdivision development, but you can also choose to take a fee in lieu of the development setting aside open space, and that fee is for future open space acquisition. So it may be that the town needs to prioritize the fee and being able to then acquire those parcels strategically, but coming up with an analysis that you can use to determine the value of a piece of open space from a ecological or whatever standpoint could also be a good option rather than just trying to decide what parcels, because you'll end up with parcels that aren't on the list being put in front of the town for consideration, and the parcels you identify nobody ever wants to sell. So that could be an alternative approach.
Basically, instead of looking at specific properties, coming up with a rubric for what
Exactly.
we would like to see,
Yep.
so that if something does come up, you evaluate it based on the generalized terms as opposed to specifically considering a individual property.
Yeah. So, if the town, I don't think any town is like this anymore, but many years ago, towns were really worried about school-age children. And so they would look at, okay, well, if this parcel goes on the market, how many houses are we likely to get? How many kids does that mean? So that was something that you used to look at. But yeah, proximity to existing open space. Is there an NDD blob on the property? Is there some type of a critical habitat? Is there a stream? Ridge line? You can look at all of those features. What is, the percentage of wetland soil, or all those different environmental factors. A lot of towns seem to be talking more about trying to create the corridors, but also preventing interruption of forest canopy. So if you buy a field or something is great, but you also need to look at, having other types of habitat. So yeah, that rubric is a good impartial way to determine how valuable a piece is without knowing who owns it or what they want to sell it to you for.
Mike, might you have some great plans from other towns that we could look at?
I have the criteria or the analysis or the factors. We did it on a ranking system, so we said if it's within a certain distance to an existing and preserved open space, it gets 3 points. If it's within this much, it gets 2 points. If it has NDDB blob, it gets another 3 points. And then we scored them, and we did it through a mapping exercise. And the darker the parcel, the more valuable from an acquisition standpoint. But we can certainly provide you with that sort of ranking formula, if you will. Yeah.
Just from a show of hands, are you guys interested in trying to pursue this a little bit and, help focus and help make recommendations? Or do you feel it's our area and you'd like to get a little bit involved with it? Or you want to discuss?
I think it seems valuable to put out there what it is that we think is valuable for the community when we're talking about preserving wetlands and natural areas. I think it makes sense to set what our targets are so that it can be more objective if something comes in front of us.
Having the plan in place and be ready to act if need be.
Okay. So maybe we'll plan for our December meeting with Robin to have some kind of facilitated discussion, and maybe we can send out ahead of time one of these criteria systems provided by Tyche.
Sure.
And just, maybe have a half-hour discussion about it, and and if Robin maybe has some other, I believe Robin's going to be back next week, and maybe she can put something together for us ahead of time for us to look at and review. Okay. Any other comments on that?
How often does this sort of thing come up? How often does land come up that,
I'd say whenever we do a new subdivision, they basically have to set aside space for us. I mean, the houses that are going up now, not on East Street, North Main Street. I mean, what they gave us for open space was a strip 1,600 feet long and 10 feet wide. And they call that open space along the north boundary of that property. So we certainly could do better than what we're doing now.
We talked about it today.
I believe historically, the set-asides for new developments usually went as land to the land trust. Well, initially to the town, and then sometimes given over to the East Granby Land Trust. But I think in more recent years, the tendency has been to just take the money in lieu of land. And my personal feeling about that, which can wait till the next meeting, though, is that the town or land trust should be given a choice first. And if the land trust is willing to acquire that property, but it might not be desirable for preservation, so the fee might be better in that situation. But as I recall, a lot of the properties that were given over to the land trust are rather difficult.
Yeah, they're little strips and edges and wetlands carved out from the middle of or the edges of people's backyards. So it hasn't, some of it hasn't really been great space.
On the other hand, if you just do the fee in lieu of the property, will that fee actually pay for an equivalent piece of land? And I'm a little skeptical about that. I seem to recall that there was a meeting, I think it was last year, a hearing relating to the use of the open space property to improve the playground, which is a worthy cause, but nonetheless. And I was kind of surprised at how small that fund was. At least it seemed small at the time. That's all I've got now.
Okay, and anybody else? Okay, thanks. So let's move on to new business. The first item, the as of right determination for selective timber harvest in Griffin Road. And I basically spent some time reading up on this and have confirmed
Before you
that.
continue, Jennifer, Madam Chairman, I will be officially recusing myself from this, as I mentioned before, but that was before the meeting was public. So I will recuse myself from this discussion due to the conflict of it being related to me.
Okay. Is Lisa still allowed to be present for the discussion?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you, Lisa. But anyway, so the basic concept that planting and harvesting trees is considered a farming activity. And as of right, farmers are allowed to do this. There isn't any question about that. But because we have never reviewed one of this type of proposals, I asked if Mr. Jim Gillespie, who submitted the proposal, could maybe walk us through the other reason I'm concerned is two edges of the harvesting area do abut large wetland areas. So I just wondered if I asked Mr. Gillespie some specific questions so he could walk us through how the operation's going to work, and what protections will be done for the wetlands. So, and I don't know who else would like to introduce themselves.
I'd be happy to. It's okay. So I'm Jonathan Griffin, and I'm the property owner. 50 Griffin Road. My family has been farming in East Granby for 200 years. We used to be, when I was a kid, it was a dairy farm, and actually the property that we are hoping to harvest hardwoods or pine, actually, white pine. When I was a child, my parents it was a registered tree farm. So tree farm is a designation that Jim can certainly probably speak to. But it's really around responsible harvesting and management of a farm's timber resource. And Jim was a younger forester back in the day, but both of my parents hired Jim, and I still remember the process that he went through and the diligence that he took in caring for the farmland, the forest land, in doing a harvest about 40 years ago. I'll talk to that. So when our family decided, now that I've taken over the property from my father and my mother, who passed away last year, we looked at the property and we looked at the timber on the property and realized that it was time for another harvest. And we didn't speak to why that's important for a good, healthy forest land. And so luckily I reached out to Jim, and he was still willing to work with us, and he's had a long history with the state forest and actually the national forest program. So I'll stop talking, but that's what kind of led us here, and Jim has done a lot of work that I'm sure he'll speak to in his presentation. So thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jim Gillespie. I'm a certified forester. I'm a private forester. They certified as foresters, and I am certified as a forester. Number 1405. As Jonathan said, I worked for his folks back in the 80s, 2 separate harvests of timber from their woodlot adjacent to their farm fields. And back then, it was a type of harvest, referred to silvicultural terms. That's growing of trees, silviculture. They had trees that had been growing there over the decades, and wanted to see what's the possibilities of having a harvest. So we had a harvest 2 different times of actually the same 2 areas that we're talking about tonight. And I passed out a site plan that shows the areas that are being harvested at this point. As was in the beginning, I requested a jurisdictional review by the commission that the forest activities are considered farming state statute and are exempt from permit process. So that's what was mentioned, a vote versus a consensus. Well, consensus wasn't used, but many commissions that I've talked to, they use the consensus process instead of a vote process, because it's not voting for a permit. It's a consensus is an agreement that yes, it is exempt activity. So that's from my standpoint to clarify that. So you have the plan. I want to address the questions that I received from Michelle. And I don't know if you have a copy of these, but I'll read them if that be clarified. So provide a clear picture of the site plan of the planned tree cutting area. I provided that much clearer as opposed to the one I sent with the as-right activity view. There may be a vernal pool within the planned northern work area which should be shown. I believe that's a vernal pool. I call it as a water body. I haven't really observed it when there's water in it. It definitely, I can recognize those in my work. They're depression. The leaves are usually matted. It's gray. There's high bush blueberry and things like that around it. So that definitely is some sort of water body at certain times of the year. Second question was provide a general description of how the work will be accomplished. Confirming that it will meet the guidelines of Connecticut DEP 2012 Best Management Practices Field Guide. I actually have one of those field guides that I'll just
Nice.
donate to the commission. I just got it Friday. I went to a workshop in Sessions Woods, and they had some extras. So basically, best management practices are used as a term that's used in a lot of different fields today, in construction, in building, farming, forestry. It's basically minimizing damage or minimizing disturbance, minimizing, hopefully eliminating any possible damage to adjacent areas of a work site. And this is a work site in the woods. So the harvest, I want to describe this a little more. The harvest is cutting trees, the stumps are left in place. There's machines. Today they're very expensive. There used to be a skidder and a chainsaw, skidder guy with a chainsaw. Now they have harvesting machines that take down a tree, the person sitting in the cab, they cost nearly $1 million. Then there's another machine called a skidder. If you're not familiar with it, it's a real four-wheel machine that has an arch in the back. It's either a winch or a grapple in the back. The four-wheel drive is articulated and go through the woods, and it pulls the tree either with the cable or with the grapple. Another machine is a forwarder, and that has a self-loader. It loads the trees on the back of the machine. It's like a skidder, but often they're 8 wheels. This particular operation, the person who's going to be doing the harvesting is a certified forest practitioner as well. He's called the Supervisory Forest Products Harvester, certified by the state. A lot, but the state has a long word for it, long term for it. He has all 3 machines. He has a skidder, he has a forwarder, and he has a processor. The processor, these trees are quite large, so they'll be doing hand cutting mostly. Then using the machines to take them out of the woods. Your site plan shows, I'm going quite detailed in this particular question because this really is the crux of the whole operation. The site plan shows the approximate access ways out of the woods to an area that's called a landing. And that's where the logs are accumulated. The trees are brought out, they're cut into logs. A truck then comes in, picks them up, takes them away. Those trails, for best management practices, that they're not excavated, graveled, anything like that. They go over the natural ground and they come out. And when the operation is completed, they back drag them. They make them passable trails in the future, for future logging trails, future hiking trails, and so forth. They're not a lot of disturbance as far as there's not really any excavation going. This ground is fairly well drained. It's gravel based, sand based. So let's see, it's a long question. So operational plan, wetland, sedimentation and erosion protection. Generally, you don't need silt fence, hay bales for the logging operation. If this had a wetland crossing, I would recommend hay bales on both sides of that wetland crossing. But the slopes here are fairly moderate to flat. It's not an area that I see any potential erosion in many of these wetlands. Slash is the top of the trees, branches. They're cut off in the woods or at the landing, but they're left on the ground and they're good. They go decompose, go back into the organic layer of soil eventually. People sometimes don't like looking at them. they're not detrimental to the environment, it's just aesthetic. They will be the tops, the tree will be utilized, so doing that, the tops are usually cut up pretty good. And they're within 6 feet of the ground level, so they will decompose fairly readily over the next few years. Impacts to the wetlands from the tree removal will be minimized. How will it be minimized? As I said, it's a fairly moderate slope. The soil is not highly erodible soil, or it's not going to be, I don't see any issue where there's any drainage going into the wetlands. The buffer areas, that's a term, it's, I call it the upland review area. When the wetlands, the upland. That's an area that you still can cut trees. Actually, the statute allows for cutting trees in wetlands. And actually having machines in wetlands. There may be some on the edges that if you were to do some soil tests, that could be a wetland, poorly drained soil, and there may be a tree there that's growing on a little high rise, a little hummock, and that tree may be cut, but it's not a permanent injury to the wetlands. It's similar to a tree getting blown over by wind or getting hit by lightning or a windstorm into the wetlands. But the contractor, the logger, does have responsibility to, if he puts a top into, well, especially the vernal pool, I don't think he will do that, but if he does, he pulls it out. And same with the edges of the wetlands. Things will be pretty clean. There's some trees on the edges, but in that upland review area, but it's not going to be completely clear. There was a question here. So, number 3, confirm that the plan selected timber harvesting its purpose of forest regeneration, as stated in the notification, is not clear cutting for purposes of expanding agricultural cropland. That's a mouthful. Every time you cut a tree, I'm sure you've seen it, leave your yard alone, don't start growing trees. Ag is blessed with it grows trees without being open. So cutting trees, making more light available to the forest is going to result in regeneration. There's a lot of regeneration there already. I call that advanced regeneration. There's also standing trees. We're not cutting all the trees. There's standing trees that will grow for future timber harvest or future purposes. And there's also a number of hardwood trees on the western portion. That'd be the area, harvest area 1. There's some oak, white, black, red oak, and there's maple, red maple, and there's some black birch in there too. Some of that to be harvested, some not. There's quite a stand of young trees, well, they're 40 years old now, from the 1980s harvests that are now in 12, 16-inch size crops. So the term selective timber harvesting, that's really not used in forestry terms, because that's a general term. Selection is one method of silviculture. Sheltered wood is another, and I put that down. It's a mix. It's not all one treatment in the forest. It depends on what the conditions are as I go through marking the trees. And certainly not expansion of agricultural cropland. We're not stomping, we're not making new areas for growing all those things in the ground. So number 4, it asked me if possible for interested members of the Inland Wetlands Commission to visit to work areas. And the agent Mark included. Then this kind of ties in with number 5. We would like you to notify Mark prior to start tree removal, allowing them to visit the work area during the progress of the work, to ensure that wetlands are not being impacted. So these two points, these really draw attention to why forestry is included in the definition of farm. It impedes on someone working on their property, harvesting crops, growing crops. It's not, in my opinion, it's not in the purview of the town to come and inspect how people use their farm. It's not, I don't want to be unneighborly, but I just think it's not something that should be. So if it was a permit, absolutely, sidewalk, and then have a permit, and then have overseen. But I've been hired by the Griffins to oversee operation at the forester. I have to retain my license. If I do something bad, I can lose my license, even though I'd rather retire sometimes. But it is. I'm there watching the forest and the operation on behalf of the Griffins, but also on behalf of the forest. So those are the points I would not recommend. So I had a list here which I didn't even use. I want to make sure I got everything correct. So has anyone seen a logging operation, timber harvest operation? I mean, been in the woods? It's a couple, yes, a couple no. It'd be a useful thing to do, but it's a dangerous place to be, number one. Machine has stayed 300, maybe 100 yards away, 300 feet away. That's a long way. I don't go in the woods without notifying the operator that I'm going to be there with an orange vest and a hard hat. So ongoing operation is not a good place to be. I've had many operations, timber harvest supervisions in the area, in the Farmington Valley, over here, over in the Houstonic Valley, over the decades, since the 80s, early 80s, that I could show your commission, including my property. I'd be glad to show properties that have been managed over the years, but during an operation, during the harvest, I don't. So I kind of leave that out there. And I have one more thing to hand out. It's just, I just took a snapshot off my phone and made a print of it. It shows what the section 1Q, 1-1Q statute, the general statute, it has all what's included in forestry, or in farming, which includes harvesting mushrooms. So it has a lot of things in there. But again, it's to help property owners do work on their property in a proper way and not have a lot of regulations on it, as though it's being developed into a change of land use. This is not being changed land use. It's perpetrating the forest. So I said a lot of things. I open to questions and any clarifications.
I guess my concern remains the wetlands, and what I'm hoping along those two eastern edges, that there will be some number of protective trees left along the direct edge of the wetlands. It sounded like you said there would be some trees left. I'm not asking you to promise or predict, but I'm just confirming that would be your approach.
Now the east side, the number, I think it's number 2.
Both of them stick into wetland areas. Both the harvest area above the bike path and below the bike path are bordered by wetland areas.
Okay. Both sides will have lots of trees left on the edges, especially on the east side, number 2, that is more a shelter wood harvest. Mm-hmm. The side on the harvest area 1 That's, I'm not sure what you call that, because the trees I left from 40 years ago are now 30 inches in diameter. I mean, they're huge.
Yeah, owls live in there, just so you know. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a few trees, one tree in particular, a lightning strike, that was from the top down. And these trees are over 100 feet tall, 120 feet tall. And I noticed some cavities, pretty good cavities in there. There's definitely trees in there that will have beneficial uses for birds and things afterwards. So.
But I thank you for explaining to us. And do you guys have any questions or?
I do have a question about the site visit. I'm not requesting one or suggesting one, but clearly the issue of during the operation will be dangerous. What about afterwards? Presumably that would not be as objectionable, except for the oversight idea that does seem to appeal.
Well, for educational purposes, that's up to all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not clear that such a visit would actually have any impact on any decision, other than the educational aspect of it.
Yeah. It'd be like, let's say, you put an addition on your house and the neighbor will come see it.
Okay.
When it's done.
That's actually happened during my case, but.
Oh, okay. What's that example? Yeah, I do a lot of education. Actually, every plan I have is education. It's because today, 4 years ago, I would go to wetland commissions and I would do the same thing I just did tonight. I had the same plan, I followed the same procedures on my job, but they would say, you have to have a permit. Well, I show this statute and they say, well, yeah, we agree with that. You still have to have a permit. So pay the $75 and have the permit. No one ever came out. No one ever checked, but I still did the same thing. No, the standards, but that'd be up to Griffiths. Yeah. And sure, it would be educational. I don't know, there's gotta be, you talked about open space earlier in the meeting. If the town has open space, do you have any town forests that you've done work in that the town owns? That'd be a great place to have demonstration, harvest, and things like that. Anyway, that's just a thought.
Yeah, John, where the Story Trail is, the Ian Clark Preserve, we did selective tree thinning to create more open field areas for the birds. Because field areas are what we have the least of here in Connecticut.
For the land operation.
Yeah, we actually got a USDA grant for that. So, and anybody else?
I have a question. Go ahead. Following the lines of Jennifer, I guess my concern that's popping to mind is the logging trails, specifically in Harvest Area 1. They appear to be becoming close to the wetlands. And if the equipment you've discussed is that large and that aggressive to take that big of tree down, is that going to create a mess on the road? And could that spill over into wetlands without any type of protection? I guess I don't understand what that distance is.
Yeah, these are general locations, and there'd be side spurs off of those. The machines, either they're rubber tire machines that they're 6 feet, 5 feet high, they're wide. The orders sometimes have tracks, moving tracks that go on like a bulldozer. The harvester, I think, is on tracks. The PSI, the pounds per square inch of those, which are very low. They don't dig in. They dig in enough for traction, but it's like, and I said, they're not going to make roadways. They just travel on top. But the slash is also very good for along those edges. Not to take all the slash out or make it look at the park. But to answer your question, I don't see any issue there.
All set?
So, I originally was thinking in terms of a motion to confirm the proposed selective timber harvest considered that we do agree it's considered farming under state statute and is exempt from permitting. So, but if we're not supposed to vote, should we? Mike, I don't know how else you indicate agreement.
What you said sounds perfect.
Okay. Michelle, I can type that up and email it to you if you want. And Mr. Gillespie, does that satisfy that we're confirming that the proposed selective timber harvest is considered farming under state statute and is exempt from permitting?
That sounds perfect.
Okay,
And then-
I got it from you.
Very good. Gillespie, the RG.
Does anyone have any objections of any type or concerns or questions? So I guess that we can consider that we have consensus on this? Is everyone nodding their heads, I think?
Yep.
All right.
Unanimous.
And Mr. Gillespie, thanks for educating us. It's our first one.
You're welcome. I appreciate having an opportunity to talk to people about this because 40 years ago, I thought by now everyone knows. But it doesn't happen that way. I spend too much time in the woods and the trees. To meet with people.
This again in 20 years.
Cross their fingers. All set?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thanks, John and Lisa. So moving on to the meeting dates for next year. Did you guys see what Michelle sent us?
Yeah.
Yes.
The only one I'm questioning is July 1 is the Wednesday of the 4th of July weekend. I wondered if we might want to make that July 8th, the following week. Like, I don't know if you guys have kids.
It really depends on the availability of the space, and I don't know. I would have to check on that. But I just heard a no anyway.
We'll have standing meetings on first Wednesday and second Wednesday of each month. So I pretty much know I'm not available.
Move from the first to the second.
Right.
It's got to
My
stay on
second's
first.
already
Well,
taken.
and I mean, being a Wednesday, a 4th of July is probably the least affected day of the week with the
Yeah.
4th of July. It's not like it's the 4th or the 3rd. Perhaps.
Okay. I was more thinking people might take vacation that week, but
It's like it's the
okay.
8th.
So
Legally.
okay, so we want to keep it the way exactly as it is.
Fine.
Good by me.
July 1. Okay. Let's see. So do we need a formal motion to approve that?
Yep.
Okay. Can someone make the motion, please?
I move we accept the scheduled meetings.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're good. Anything else before we adjourn? Okay, so let's see, how'd I do? Under an hour. We're good, 7:45. So please, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Okay, second?
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Thank you, and we'll see you next month.